Alright, in part 2 of this series, we're going to continue looking at some more harder questions of negative and fractional indices. And these are all exam-style questions for GCSE, by the way. So, first of all, in the previous video, I covered all the videos up to question 11. So, in the previous video, watch it because it explains step-by-step on how to do them more specifically and also the reasoning behind the steps that we take. Because in this video, I'm just going to do the steps, not like explain why this happened. So, watch the previous video for that. And okay, evaluate. So, it says evaluate, right? Evaluate basically just means work out or simplify. Don't get scared by the word. So 32 to the power of negative 0.4, it's a decimal, right? So always, whenever you have a decimal, I would always convert it to fraction because it's easier that way. You can visualize it better. 0.4 is 4 over 10, right? You can simplify it to 2 over 5 and don't forget the negative, so negative 2 over 5. So we have 32, so 32 to the power of negative 2 over 5. So first of all, let's get rid of the negative. So negative would be 1 over 32 to the power of 2 over 5. Remember, you flip the sign and watch the previous video if you don't know why this happens. 1 over 32 to the power of 2 over 5. 2 over 5 means the fifth root of 1 over 32, right? 5 numbers that multiply to make 1 over 32 because it's the 1 over 5. 1 over 5 means 5 numbers. And fifth root, because fifth root means 5 numbers that make up this number. And we have 2 of these, 2 over 5. So we're going to square this. So if you take a look at your calculator and you put this into your calculator, so you can put it like this. The fifth root, so you shift and you press this in yellow, it shows the shift, right? So the fifth root fraction 1 over 32 is a half, and we're squaring that, so that should be a quarter. So a half, and we're squaring this, so 1 over 4. Number 11 is a quarter. Okay, number 12, work out 25 to the power of a half divided by 2 to the power of negative 2. Let's get rid of the half first. So that's going to be the square root of 25, two numbers as noted by this. And square root of 25, 25 is a square number, so it's going to be 5. Divided by 2 to the power of negative 2. Remember, we just do this and we flip the sign, which is equal to 1 over 4. 2 squared is 4, right? So 5 divided by 1 over 4. We can flip the sign to make it 5 multiplied by 1 over 4, and you can write 5 as 5 over 1. So 5 times 1 is 5, 4 times 1 is 4, and that's it, 5 over 4. Which, no, I made a mistake, sorry guys. I forgot to flip the sign. It's 5 divided by 1 over 4, right? Keep, change, flip the key. You know, we can all make mistakes like this, so make sure you don't make mistakes like this, okay? 5 over 1 multiplied by 4 over 1. You're supposed to flip this. When you flip the sign to a division, to a multiplication, you're supposed to flip this the other way too. So 5 over 1 multiplied by 4 over 1 is going to be 20 over 1, which is 20. 20 is the final answer. Okay, number 13. Work out 125 divided by a third. So that's going to be the cube root of 125. Three numbers that multiply to make 125. Multiplied by 2 to the power of negative 3. So that's going to be 1 over 2 cubed. Well, that's going to be equal to 2 times 2 times 2, which is 1 over 8. Multiplied by the cube root of 125. Well, the cube root of 125 is just 5, because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. 5 times 1 over 8, you can write 5 as 5 over 1. So it's going to be 5 times 1, which is 5. 1 times 8 is 8. So the final answer is 5 over 8. Okay, continuing on, 16 to the power of 1.5. Well, that's going to be a half plus a half plus a half, right? So 16 to the power of 3 over 5 plus, not 3 over 5, what am I saying? A half plus a half, I'm getting confused by this half. 16 to the power of 3 over 2, because 0.5 is 1 over 2, a half, right? And 1 is 2 over 2. So 2 over 2 plus a half is 3 over 2, plus 8 to the power of 0. I explained in the previous video why anything to the power of 0 is 1. Well, that's 1. So 16 to the power of 3 over 2 is the square root of 16 cubed. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. Plus 1 is 65. So this question 14 is 65. So on to 15, 49 over 100. I will always convert this to a decimal form first because it gets confusing when you have a double fraction. 0.49. Okay, 0.49. First of all, let's get rid of the negative. So to get rid of the negative, 0.49 over 1 over 2. Remember, we flip the sign when you get rid of the negative. And we just need to get rid of the half now. So that's going to be two numbers that multiply to make 1 over 0.49. So that's the square root of 1 over 0.49, which is, what is that? Let's try that out. Square root of 1 over 0.49. Oops, I can't type. What am I doing? 1 over 0.49, which is 10 over 7. So the answer to number 15 is 10 over 7. And by the way, guys, I'm checking my answer with my answer sheet here as I go, so don't worry. I'm not getting these wrong. Okay, let's move on. Number 16. W is greater than 1. So it means W will be bigger than 1. Write in order from the smallest to largest. Okay, whenever you have smallest to largest, just underline it, because I constantly make mistakes when I write them in largest to smallest or vice versa. So make sure just to do this. W to the power of 0, anything to the power of 0 is 1. W cubed, well, that's just W cubed. W3 divided by W4, well, you can simplify this, right? It's going to be 1 over W4, which is W4 minus 3 is 1. So W1, which is 1 over W. Because you can cancel the W's out. And W to the power of negative 2, remember to get rid of, we just put it in fraction form, and you flip the sign, which is 1 over W squared. So if the denominator is larger, that number is going to be smaller because you're dividing by a larger number. So this is going to be the smallest, second smallest. So I'll write 2 here, second smallest. Third smallest, and W cubed is going to be the largest because the number is larger than 1. So this will be the largest. So in order, this would be the smallest, W to the power of negative 2. W3 over W4, W to the power of 0, and W cubed will be our final answer. Okay, evaluate 2 to the power of 4 multiplied by 4 to the power of negative 2. Well, 2 to the power of 4 is just 2 times 2 times 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2 is 4, 8, 16. 16 multiplied by 4 to the power of negative 2, so that's just going to be 1 over, I'm sorry, I know you guys can't see, 1 over 4. And 16, 1 over 4 squared, because remember you flip the sign. And 16 times 1 over 4 squared is 16. And you can write 16 as 16 over 1, so that's going to be 16 over 16, which is equal to 1. Okay, Isaac claims that the value of 2 of these numbers below are equal. So 2 of the numbers here are going to be equal. Is Isaac correct? You must show you're working out. 9 to the power of negative 3 over 2. Let's get that done first. Well, negative 3 over 2 will mean let's get rid of the negative first, so that will be 1 over 9. And we have a 3 over 2. How do we get rid of the 3 over 2? It's 2 numbers that multiply to make 1 over 9, and we are cubing that. Well, let's try that out. The square, what am I doing? Square root of 1 over 9. Oh no, I made a mistake. Square root of 1 over 9. 1 over 3. Oh, that was easy. 1 over 9, 1 over 3, and then we're cubing that answer. That gives us 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. So 1 over 27 is this one. I'll just write that again in small here just so that we don't forget it. 1 over 27. Number 2, 3 to the power of negative 2. Well, to get rid of the negative, we're just going to do 1 over 3 squared. So that's going to be 1 over 9. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. So 1 over 9. 0.037, recurring. So you have to convert a recurring decimal to fraction form, right? Because all of these other answers are going to be in fraction form. To convert a recurring decimal to a fraction, it's a bit of a long and complicated process. My next video is going to be on this, but because we don't have much time, I'm just going to give you guys the answer for this, which is 1 over 27. But in the next video, I'll explain how to convert recurring decimals to fraction form. Okay, 16 to the power of negative 3 over 4. What's that going to be? First, let's get rid of the negative, so that's going to be 16. No, that's not how you get rid of the negative. 1 over 16 to the power of 3 over 4. And to get rid of the 3 over 4, 4th root of 16. There's 4 numbers that multiply to make 1 over 16. Sorry, 1 over 16. And we are cubing this answer. So the 4th root of 1. Oops. Nope, I made a mistake. Sorry, guys, bear with me. 4th root of 1 over 16 is going to be equal to a half. So a half cubed is 2 times 2 times 4, which is 1 over 8. The last one's 1 over 8. So the 2 numbers that are equal here are 9 to the power of negative 3 over 2 and 0.037 recurring because they both equal 1 over 27. All right, moving on. Work out 10 to the power of negative 2. Give your answer as a decimal. Well, 10 to the power of negative 2 is just 1 over 10 squared. Remember, you flip the sign when you divide. So 1 over 10 squared is 10 times 10, which is 100. 1 over 100 is 0.01. Okay. 4 to the power of negative 2. That's 1 over 4 squared, which is 1 over 16. 4 to the power of a third. Let's get rid of that first. So that's going to be the 4th root, the cube root of 4, actually, because it's a third, so 3 here. Cube root of 4, and we are cubing this answer. So the cube root of 4, actually, you don't need to do that. Cube root of 4 is just cancel these out. Because these 3's cancel out, right? We're cubing it and we're cube rooting it. So 4. So it's 1 over 16 multiplied by 4. You can write this as 4 over 1. So it's going to be 4 over 16, which is equal to 2 over 8, which is equal to 1 over 4. Final answer, 1 over 4. Okay. 7 multiplied by 7, 0 times 7 to the power of negative 1. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. 7, this is going to be 7. Multiplied by 7 to the power of negative 1, so it's going to be 1 over 7. You can write them all in this form. So 7 is just staying like that, and there's nothing else here. So 7 over 7, which is equal to 1. So number 21 is equal to number 1. Okay, this might look confusing or easy to some of you, but it's basically, you don't need to worry. It's just, you just need to write them in the form of 2 to the power of n. It means anything to the power of 2 to the power of n. So it could be 2 to the power of 5, or 2 to the power of half, or 2 to the power of -1, or something like that, okay? What's 4? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, right? So 2 squared. 8. Well, 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, so 2 cubed is going to be 8. Okay, 32. It gets a bit larger. You can use your calculator for this, but I'll try just not to use it. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Well, that, up to here was 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Well, 16 times 2 is 32. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 to the power of 5. You guys might want to be good at mental maths for this, or you can use calculator, but it's not that big. A half. Well, we know that from the context of all these questions we've been answering that it's basically all fractional and negative indices. But in case you don't know, and in your GCSE is not going to tell you, you should use fractional or negative indices to answer this question. How would we get this in the form of 2 to the power of n? Well, what sort of power gives you a fraction as an answer? A negative power always gives you a fraction, right? Because you're always supposed to put it in fraction form. So a half would be 2 to the power of -1. Why? Because that's going to be 1 over 2 to the power of 1. Remember, we flip the sign. So that's going to be 1 over 2. So 2 to the power of -1. You want to know, you want to keep everything in your mind. So negative fractional indices, all the stuff that could possibly make this answer. Well, 1 over 4 is basically this, but the denominator just needs to be larger. Well, if we have -2, we're going to square this bottom number, right? It's going to be 1 over 2 squared. Remember, you still flip the sign. It's going to be 1 over 4. So 2 to the power of -2. How about the square root of 2? Well, what sort of indice gave us a square root as an answer? Well, it's always fractional indices, right? So 2 to the power of a half will be two numbers that multiply to make 2. Square root of 2, right? And if this was 2 to the power of 2 over 2, that would give us the square root of 2 squared, which would give us 2. But that's not what we're looking for here. Anyhow, that would be the square root of, that would be 2 over half, because, well, I just explained it. Two numbers that multiply to make 2, so root 2. Okay, root 8. What would it be? It's going to still have to be a fractional indice, right? Well, maybe it's going to be a third. What would a third give us? Well, that's going to give us root 2 multiplied by root 2, multiplied by root 2, which is root 8. So 2, what am I doing? Sorry, guys. 3 over 2. Okay, I'll just write this again here. 2 to the power of 3 over 2. Because that's going to be root 2 multiplied by root 2 multiplied by root 2. Because it's going to be root 2 cubed. 3 of these root 2's. Because it's a half plus a half plus a half. It's not going to be 2 to the power of, what did I write here? 1 over 3. Because that's just going to be the cube root of 2. 3 numbers that multiply to make 2. This one is 2 numbers that multiply to make 2. But we have 3 of them. So it's going to be 2 to the power of 3 over 2. Okay. Write these numbers in the form 5 to the power of n. So it's in the same format. It's a similar method as this, but we're just writing in the form 5 over n. Well, to make 5, it's just going to be 5 over 1, which is 5. 6 to 5. The number seems big. Don't worry. The number itself below the power has also gotten bigger. We know it's not 5 to the power of 1. 5 squared is 25. You can always use a calculator, but this helps you to understand it better. 5 cubed is 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125. 5 to the power of 4 is 125 times 5, which is 5 to the power of 4, 625. So it's going to be 5 to the power of 4, 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. To get the power of 1, we know it's a 0, right? Anything to the power of 0 is 1. A fifth. It's going to be the same thing as this. We're going to need a negative number to give us a fractional answer, right? So 5 to the power of -1 is going to be 1 over 5 to the power of 1, which is 1 over 5, right? So 5 to the power of -1 it is. Root 5. Well, it's going to be a fractional indice, right? To make root 5, it's just going to be 5 to the power of a half, because it's two numbers, right? So it's going to be the square root of 5. So 5 to the power of a half. 125. We definitely know that it's not going to be a half, but the top number needs to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? We can't make the bottom number bigger because that's going to become a cube root. So we don't change the bottom number. The bottom number tells us the type of root it is. So if it's 1 over 5, it's going to be the fifth root, 5 number that multiply to make 5. This one, it needs to stay as a square root because it's not fifth root of 125, it's just square root of 125. Let's try 5 to the power of 2 over 2. Well, that's just root 5 squared, right? 2 of these root 5s because it's a half plus a half. Well, that's going to be root 5 plus root 5. Root 5 multiplied by root 5, right? Which is root 25, which is just 5. That's not what we're looking for. 5 to the power of 3 over 2, though. What would that be? It's going to be root 5 cubed. That's going to be root 5 times root 5, which is root 25, multiplied by root 5, which is going to give us 125. So it's going to be root 5. Sorry, not root 5. What am I doing? 5 to the power of 3 over 2. Because that's going to give us root 125, which is what we're looking for here. 5 to the power of 3 over 2. 3125. Don't get scared by this large number. If we just continue in this process, we'll eventually reach it. 5 to the power of 4 is going to be the root 5 to the power of 4. Well, what's 5 times 5 times 5 times 5? 5 times 5 times, so 5 to the power of 4, right? That's going to be 625. Still not close enough. How about 5 to the power of 5? Well, that's going to be root 5 to the power of 5, right? What's 5 to the power of 5? 3125. And believe it or not, we reached the answer. That's all you have to do. So the answer is 5, right? So it's going to be 5 to the power of 5 over 2. 5 of these halves. So 5 to the power of 5 over 2. Okay, that's it. Final 2 questions. Okay, if you guys are here with me until now, please sub and like. Okay, it's been a long day. Okay, let's continue. Write 8 in the form of 4 to the power of n. How would we write 8 in the power of 4 to the power of n? 4 to the power of 1 is 4, right? How do we get 8? It's definitely not going to be 4 to the power of 2 because that's going to be 60. No, that's going to be 16. 4 times 4. So it's going to have to be somewhere between, right? How about 4 to the power of a half? What would that get us? Well, that's going to give us the square root of 4, right? Which is 2. We're getting there. We're closer. We're somewhere similar. We're similar. How about 4 to the power of 2 over 2? Well, that's just going to be root 4 squared, which is root 64, which is 8. That's it. Sorry, what? No. 4 squared is 16. That's going to give us 4. Okay, I paced myself a bit too fast. Now, 4 to the power of 3 over 2, though, is going to be root 4 cubed. 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. What's the square root of 64? Well, 64 is a square number. That's going to be 8. So what's our answer? 4 to the power of 3 over 2. Alrighty. That's not the answer. That's just the process to getting 8. 32. Well, 32, it should be in a similar method to this, right? Because it's not 4 to the power of 3, which is 64, and it's not 4 to the power of 2, which is, what's 4 to the power of 2? 16. It's somewhere in between here, right? Just like how 4 to the power of 3 over 2 was somewhere in between these two numbers. So, what would it be? Well, 32, let's continue on this track, because I feel like we're in a similar track. 4 to the power of 3 over 2 was 8. How about 4 to the power of 4 over 2? Well, 4 to the power of 4 over 2 is just 4 squared, which is 16. So we're close. So maybe 4 to the power of 5 over 2? Because in case you don't know, 4 to the power of 4 over 2 would be 4 over 2 can be written as 2, right? So that's 16. So we're close. We're just here. So we need to go one step higher. 5 over 2. 6 over 2 would just give us 3, which is 64. But 5 over 2, 5 over 2 would be the square root of 4. And we're putting that to the power of 5. Square root of 4 is 2 times 5 is, what's 2 to the power of 5? 32. And there we have it. 4 to the power of 5 over 2. And that is pretty much all you have to know about fractional indices and negative indices. I hope this helped you. Please subscribe and like if it helped you. And thanks for watching this one. And of course, in the next video, I will explain converting recurring decimals to fraction form. I just didn't cover it in this video because it takes a lot of time and I don't want to make this over 20 minutes long. Okay, thanks for watching this one. I'll see you guys in the next one.